With the hunt for Tomura Shigaraki finally begun in chapter 309, it more or less confirms that we are getting closer and closer to this series ending each and every day. We get to see more information about what Deku's actually been doing during the 2 months and how he's operating. We get to see a flashback that's really touching moment with his mom and Gran Torino, and just setting up of what is happening next in the story, as there is a little bit of uncertainty outside of the main goal of the one for all versus all for one fight in the end. Outside of that, we didn't know exactly what was coming up, and this gives us just a little bit better of an idea of what's coming next. My name is Vigilantes, and today I am going to be breaking down everything that happened in My Hero Academia chapter 309, breaking it down, talking about what's next, and more. Before I do that, if you do enjoy this video or are looking for more other My Hero Academia content, Class 1A is a bunch of My Hero Academia content where we do weekly manga breakdowns, weekly anime breakdowns, other theory videos, just like we just did one on the quirk singularity theory, and so much more. So if you enjoy any of that or that sounds awesome, make sure to check out the channel and subscribe. But with that, let's jump into chapter 309, which begins seeing 2 Ketsubutsu students, Mr. Smith and Boomerang Man, arriving in the city and just kind of seeing Jailbreak / Musker being taken away and tied up, carried through the sky by Deku. Turtleneck is cradling Gran, saying that she never got a chance to thank Deku, even though she doesn't know exactly who it was yet, but is more important about Gran and all the citizens they are originally trying to evacuate come out and help carry him inside, saying, we don't want anyone to die, even though we're kind of being stubborn, and maybe we'll give you and actually listen to what you two have to say. But with that, Turtleneck is kind of starting to put pieces together, saying that it reminded her of that one kid from the licensing exam, but that they have totally different vibes, and she wasn't exactly sure if it was Deku or not, but at least she's kind of putting it together. But Deku does deliver Muscular to a local police station looking for Iron Maiden, saying like, hey, you guys have that. The second they confirm that, he takes off and gets going, where he does say that the Force danger sense is no longer going off as much. So at the moment, he gives All Might a call, saying that he's coming in. He does land, and almost as he's landing, All Might kind of does a quick check on him, like, yep, you're good, you're not hurt, anything kind of like that. Deku's totally fine, and he even checks in on a new upgrade. So in chapter 308, we're talking about how all the different quirks we had more as theoretical upgrades and kind of additional tools within his tool belt. But this is an actual physical item called the Mid Gauntlets that they got from America, more or less confirming everything in the first movie is canon. We can talk more about that later, but that's what I'm taking it as we had a very similar device in the first My Hero Academia movie. So tying one and one together, you do end up with the Mid Gauntlets, which does help him like kind of reinforce his arms a little bit, but it's not going to be enough to handle Deku's 100% output. So he needs to kind of hold it back and not go overboard until the big rematch, which we know as the final battle between Tomura and Deku at this point. All Might's phone rings, and it is Hawks picking up, while in the background we do see Endeavor and Best Genius taking down a villain. Hawks is just checking in on how Deku's doing, and All Might says that he's fine, and just right here, but oh wait, actually Deku just took off, as he's trying not to stay in the same place very too much, and he got another sense from his danger sense, which who knows what that's going to be, and we can talk about that later. Hawks is surprised because it's not really too bad that, Deku's just not trying to put anyone else's life in danger, so by as long as he's keep moving and not staying too close to anyone, no one else is really going to be in danger, because we know how powerful the people that broke him out of Tartarus is obviously are, and that the second they show up, it could be bad for anyone in the vicinity. So instead, Deku is going out and hunting for Shigaraki in advance before they're able to prepare and get Shigaraki to full 100%, which is why we're assuming he's resting right now. We do get a little bit of a flashback to where we see at the hospital that pretty much all of the other people that have been hospitalized are now being discharged with the help of Recovery Girl, but Deku, whose number one love is obviously the hospital bed, is staying there just a little bit longer, and we do get a couple of other moments here. First, a doctor comes in to meet Deku and says that previously you've been told that if you do this and go overboard, you're not going to be able to move, but it's a little different this time. It seems that you've been using your quirk to reinforce your body from the inside out, and it's almost changed your whole body in a way and reinforced your body overall. Now saying and kind of confirming for us, not exactly for the doctor saying this, but the Deku can now kind of go from using 5 to 10% normally up to 45% of his total power now, thanks to Black Whip reinforcing his body whenever he's doing punches, which is such a cool thing. And the injuries are nowhere near severe, but he still needs to be careful because in the long run, it could still immobilize him if he's not careful with his full 100% blast. As the doctor leaves, Inko does ask for an explanation of what's going on, and All Might and Deku agree to tell her and fill her in on everything, including of why he can handle the power, the true secret, and pretty much that he's being targeted by Shigaraki. And during this conversation, we do get a couple of things. One, they're like, oh wait, All Might says we're preparing to protect Deku at UA, and Deku said he's not going back to UA. Because now that Tomura can pretty much locate him whenever he wants, that anyone around Deku is going to be in danger, so he doesn't want to be in one place where he's putting a lot of people in danger. And we even get a kind of a quick shot of seeing Bakugo and Gran Torino and a bunch of other people all in their injured state from the war, and he doesn't want that to happen again. So instead, that's why he decided to go rogue and try to stop Tomura and All For One before they reach their full power. Inko and Deku kind of have a moment here that she doesn't want him to go, obviously, that he's in a hospital right now and he wasn't strong enough to do it the first time, so why is going to be able to do it this time? But Deku just says, I'm going to get stronger this time, and that's why I'm going to do it, and I'm going to try to stop it before it gets to it. They continue having it, and we see a couple of flashbacks here where we saw the cute moment of when Deku was being All Might and saving Inko, but instead this is kind of a flip of that image where they were both laughing and kind of going into it, but this time it is Deku kind of reassuring his mom that everything's going to be all right, that he has to go do this, and that's pretty much what his destiny is. All Might isn't someone that is loving this idea, but had a feeling that Deku was already going to have his mind made up, so he says that I'm going to support you. Like, even if you don't want me to, I'm going to help you in whatever way I can. And actually, during that, they do contact Best Genius about that he's leaving UA, and Best Genius is like, well, actually, Deku's really the only one that can hunt down Tomura, so we're actually going to have him as the main focus of what we're going to do anyways, so it kind of works. So right before Deku does leave, he does visit Gran Torino and gives him Nana's regards, and also just kind of a general conversation, with the most important part being that sometimes killing someone is its own form of saving or salvation for someone, and that Deku's trying to do this thing where he's trying to understand and turn villains around, but sometimes, especially with Tomura, it might just be better to kill him as a way to save him instead of trying to do this flipping thing. So, and with that, he receives his cape from Gran Torino, and Deku goes off to team up with the top 3 heroes and All Might to stop the League of Villains. Such a cool chapter. Such a cool chapter. Because not only does it kind of fill in the gap, because like right now it's like, oh, was Deku just totally rogue, kind of an anti-hero for these last 2 months? That doesn't make sense. And that he's working alongside these top 3 heroes while not being directly with them makes sense. And we obviously can see that his promise to Inko is true, that he is much, much stronger than he was before. And he's obviously taking down the likes of Muscular with ease. And we also do kind of get an idea of where the story is going with Deku beginning to hunt down Tomura. And with that, I think there's a couple more stops. I don't think this in chapter 310 it's like, oh, we got to lead on where they are, and they start preparing that. I think there's a couple of other road stops before we get to that point. One being Overhaul. I think Overhaul is someone that kind of got a little bit of a moment when they were broken out of Tartarus, so it would make sense that he maybe has a short moment, even if they don't have an exact confrontation because he no longer has arms, but maybe just Deku having a conversation with him and trying to understand what Overhaul went through would very much make sense with what Deku's trying to do, is trying to turn people and understand villains' mentalities. Another one being Stain, who we also saw break out and got another moment of when he was grabbing out a sword. So he's clearly still out there and someone that respected Deku, but is still a villain in many ways. So that's another conversation that would make sense with the theme of going of Deku trying to understand villains and Stain being one of the most complex kind of anti-hero villains out there. Them having a conversation or some kind of showdown would make complete sense as stepping stones of going up to the most messed up of all villains, being Tomura, and having that conversation and confrontation to end the series, which I kind of think of the 3 roadblocks before we get there. I'm sure more will come up between now and then, but that's my immediate thoughts of what's coming next. My favorite part of all of this is that the first movie, aka my favorite, Melissa, is now more or less confirmed as canon. It's never really mentioned too much in the series at that point. I think there's like the one filler island, but now that it's actually in the manga with some kind of reinforcing gloves, that pretty much sets it up that we put America And these reinforcing gloves that happened in the first movie, I wonder who he got it from. Oh yeah, All Might's side old sidekick's daughter. I mean, it makes sense. I don't know where else it come from. I'm just very happy that Melissa is more or less canon, at least in my head, and we have a little bit more reasoning behind it. But nonetheless, whatever comes in 310, it's still not 100% clear, but we have an idea of what's going forward. I'm beyond excited for that. I think 310, 11, and 12 in the series is setting up to go in such an awesome place that I cannot wait. So thank you all so much for tuning in with me for this week's video, and I'll be back next Sunday to break down everything that happens in chapter 310. I'll see you all then.